Day.
Isn't what happened with the friend?
A fairly large YouTuber that I know, like somebody doxed him and is saying some really hateful stuff about him, and he was kind of freaking out, and he wanted to see if he can get my help on it, and I gave him all I knew to do.
Yeah, as far as well, I don't know. You know my style. I'm a lean into it. I'm a everything you assume about me is true, but worse type of person. Like,
Well, you also don't try to make YouTube your job.
oh, I see. I see. Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
I
Um,
may, I may, I won't lean into it, but I will make fun of you.
I'm a, I don't know. Um, so this Skye Cabot situation is fucking crazy. It's crazy. I just read through the whole doc, like the I've read it like 3 times, but I just did not care enough to actually like read it. But then I'm seeing the response on Twitter, and it's insane. These people are insane. Um, like I don't feel like this is a proportionate response at all. Um, I think that she's an idiot for getting involved with a teenager because even at 22, you should know that what's happening now is a possibility. Like she should just have known, right? Um, and she's an idiot for that. But I don't see anything in this doc that indicates that she was using any type of like manipulation or grooming or any of that nonsense. It doesn't seem to be okay. It seems to be a bog standard relationship outside of the age gap. Um, there's nothing in here that seems to indicate that she used like some kind of manipulative tactic to get closer to him, or that she was feigning interest in like fursuit making or something in order to get close to him, um, or that she was uh, going out of her way. It seemed, or to me at least, that she would be going out of her way to like keep him around and isolate him. All of these things that I suspected existed, but I couldn't see. This I don't know. This doc just reeks of bullshit to me. So I'm having trouble with it. So I was thinking that you might be able to contextualize, give me a different perspective.
Okay, as far as the grooming goes, I'm seeing traces of it. Not as cut and dry as some people might presume grooming is, because I've learned one thing about Twitter. These retards don't know what that word means.
Yeah.
A 17-year-old and 18-year-old texting each other. Oh, that 18-year-old's grooming him. Like, you moron. No, that's not. When I
Right.
say what I'm seeing here in grooming is obviously some suggestive pictures being taken, given to this person when they were, like, God, a teenager, a young teenager, 15 or
I want to
16.
yeah, I want to say the mention of lewd pictures. I want to say the first time was when he was 16. It was after they hooked up, and they hooked up for the first time right after he turned 16. So she was 22 and he was 16, which is pretty fucking weird. That's pretty weird.
Well, let's see here. I just want to make sure I got the timeline right here because I haven't been able to sit down and read the full doc due to all the stuff going on.
Yeah.
But let's see here. So this person is like in their 20s now that got all this happening to them.
Oh, the
But
KitKats person.
yeah, that
The
person's in their
kit
20s. Got to be in their 20s now.
2023 now. Yeah.
Yeah. So looking at this, obviously there were sexual things shared, not just with suggestive photograph, but also, of course, doing porn of this person's character and sending it to this individual when they're underage, which, well, I think is morally abhorrent and also illegal. And I'm not going to be dumb enough to mix those two things up in this sense, like Twitter tends to do. But
Yeah. I don't
there is.
necessarily care about all that because the the reason why is because they were having sex. So all of that I think is typical behavior that we'd find in a sexual relationship, especially in the furry community. That you'd find, people doing lewd art of each other or sending each other pictures or whatever. And so I don't
Yeah,
think
but
that's
the
like.
issue.
Go ahead.
it might be not untypical in like a sexual relationship among like peers,
Right.
but in this case, the problem is the fact that the person is like 16. And if it was like a 17-year-old and 16-year-old, what I would do is what I always do. I would call them cringe and tell them to stop being stupid in public.
Yeah.
But because, but because of the age of this other person, with me, it's not a situation where I'm gonna have to say, well, if you waited a few months, it wouldn't be an issue. It's one of those. What is wrong with you? You're
Right.
in your 20s. What does a 16-year-old have in common with you? More importantly, where are this person's idiotic parents letting this person move in with them?
Thank
Like, how?
you. Oh my god. That was one of the main criticisms that I have as well, is that everybody's saying that the grooming thing is that that part of the story doesn't line up for me at all. Either your parent, like, if either his parents are retarded or he's lying. I don't buy any part of that story at all.
The unfortunate part is because he's a furry, it could be both.
That's true.
Looking at this,
I think,
there,
well, the thing is that I think having sex is such a much greater, it's such a much greater thing. Like, it's really, really high up there. Wait, no, this is what I'm trying to say, is that sex is the highest tier of their interaction. So everything else below that, to me, doesn't matter. I don't care if she was sharing nudies with him or drawing pictures of his character or whatever. She was having sex with him, so all the rest of it's irrelevant to me.
yeah, I don't disagree, but I want you to be aware when you said that I think that sex is greater. I was about to say I agree, it is. But,
True.
no, yeah, like
Oh,
compared to that, all
real
this
quick.
other,
I'm sorry. Real quick. I was talking to Coyote Lovely about it, and I asked him if he'd like to be in the call. Is that all right?
sure,
Okay. He said he just woke up, so he's going to be a minute.
yeah. My point of view on this is going to be if the moving in part's right, somebody needs to punch these parents in their mouth. But on top of that, like, yeah, I'm going to say that this is I'm not happy with this, and
Yeah.
you can possibly go from the concept like you said of are you doing like law if you were a few states down, but it also depends on a lot of factors. There are some states that yeah, the legal age of consent is 16, but only 3 years in terms of gapping, meaning like
Right.
if you're 19, you can date a 16-year-old, but if you're like 19 and a half or 20 rather, you're in trouble. So that's the legal argument you can make. The moral argument I have here is we have somebody with a developed brain and somebody with an undeveloped brain. And not only is there a power imbalance here, the age gap is not something I can really just look at and say that's normal. These
Right.
people would never have dated in the natural world, for lack of a better word, because I know it's all like man-made. But
Right.
like this is like a high schooler dating somebody in
Somebody,
elementary school.
as far as I understand, no, like, it's literally a junior in high school dating a college graduate.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, that's definitely cringe or whatever. But I don't see this. I think it's a little weird and kind of dumb. But I don't know about blowing it up the way it is being blown up.
Well, the unfortunate part is you're in the furry community.
Yes, that's
So
true.
any wrongdoing, as benign as it can be, which I don't think this is, of course, I want to make that clear, is
Right.
going to be blown up. You have a dude tracing something 5 years ago and he's a well known artist now, we're going to cancel him. If you have somebody who mishandled somebody's fursuit for a quarter of a second because he had Cheeto dust on his fingers and it got washed out regardless, banned forever.
Right.
Like you're in the most dramatic community that has ever existed, even though it's not even populated by theater kids.
True. That is very true. And I really think that there is some legitimate criticisms to be made of this Skye Cabot person. I think it's a she. He uses she, her pronouns throughout the whole first part, and then they, them pronouns for the whole second part. So I'm not entirely sure. I just go with she because he and she just works out so well. It's so easy. But I think there's some legitimate criticisms to be levying at her and whatever. But I don't put it together that she's like a predator, or like that this is a pattern of behavior that we can expect to see again in the future, or that she is ontologically attracted to children, or that she was doing anything that was particularly like explicitly, specifically, intentionally is the word I'm looking for, that was like intentionally manipulative or whatever. And I asked Coyote Lovely the question about it happening just a few miles north in Georgia, and his response is, oh God, his response was that, well, you know, if then it would be the age of consent in Georgia is 16, so it would be nobody's business, and that's kind of why I'm thinking that that's why I said that no one would have cared. It would not have been blown up like this, like it was, if this didn't happen in Florida. And I'm sure I've explained this a million times. I don't give a rat's ass about the law. I don't care what the law is. Something can be illegal, but also okay. And I don't think that it becomes wrong because they did it on one side of a state line versus a different side of a state line. Because according to Coyote Lovely, if instead of moving from Florida to Arizona, if they moved from Georgia to Oklahoma, then everything would have been fine and it would have been a totally normal, none of our business type of relationship. And I wholeheartly disagree with that. And because that seems to be, and I've talked to a little bit of people, I've talked a little bit with people on Twitter about it, and that seems to be the consensus is, well, it's illegal, he is legally a child and all this other shit, which leads me to believe that what she did was cringe and everything, but she didn't really do anything super outrageous, worthy of calling her a pedophile and all of that. Does that make sense?
I can understand where you're coming from. My difference is going to be I still think it's immoral. We could argue legality, but I think that legality in this case is a bigger issue when it comes to trying to argue that, because all we have to do is change the parameter slightly. So instead of saying, well, if they went north to Georgia, it'd be fine, but at the same time, you could also stick them in Japan and find a 13-year-old, and that's going to get a much more visceral reaction, but the argument's ultimately still the same. My issue is that person was in their 20s, isn't trying to hook up with a 16-year-old. Because, again, that tells me one of two things. Either they have a pathological issue where they go after people who are minors, or they're cringe and stupid and nobody their own age is going to want anything to do with them.
That's the impression that I get. I think that she is cringe and stupid. From what I've seen, what little I've seen of her, like in videos and whatever, she gives me like terminal autism vibes. So I think that's possible. But to be clear, I'm not saying she's innocent. I think what she was doing is super stupid and cringe, and that kind of behavior should be discouraged. But also at the same time, I'm thinking this is like, if all we care about is the law, because yeah, I get your analogy of saying maybe you move to Japan. The thing is that we are Americans, and because we're Americans, we have like certain values, and so going across an ocean to a different country with a different culture and everything like that, you're going to find something that's totally different. And as far as I understand, I don't think you can be 22 and date a 13-year-old legally in Japan anyway. As far as I understand, they stagger it kind of like Romeo and Juliet laws, but they have it like step up. I don't really know about it.
I think it depends on the prefecture, honestly.
Yeah. Oh, also another huge thing is that I also don't, I'm not one of those people that thinks that is like trying to avoid the double standard. I think it's totally fine. I think that there are certain double standards that exist, that boys and girls are different, and I am not convinced in the slightest that this 16-year-old was not fucking stoked to have a 22-year-old girlfriend. I don't. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's as much as I hate to say this in this term of phrase, it's normal for younger boys to be interested in older women. I mean, I am not a young boy. I'm 30 freaking 6, and Jack, my wife's older than me, so that's not incorrect. I'm not going to say that that is, but at the same time, like, teenagers are freaking stupid. It's like I said in the video when I was I don't know if you watch my stuff or not, but when I was covering Mr. Inter, when he was complaining about the turning red girls' friends, like girls, teenage girls they're dumb like this. I'm like, dude, teenage boys are just as much cringe, if not worse. We're just cringe in a different way.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, that's kind of one of the that would be my chief criticism toward this Skye person, is that 16-year-olds are fucking dumb. And now she's doing a tweet thread 8 years later talking about how I was problematic. And I think, honestly, problematic is an appropriate word to describe it. I don't think that it's like all this other shit. I don't think that, that we should be implicating her as like as an ontologically evil person. That's kind of my problem with the reaction, is that I think that she's cringe and stupid for getting involved with a 16-year-old. That is incredibly fucking dumb. And
Let's go ahead.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. No, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I was going somewhere with that. I can't remember. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your train of thought there, but let's go ahead and do a little bit of thought experiment. Let's go ahead and reverse the genders here. How would you feel then?
It would be totally and completely different.
Why?
Because the girls are smaller and weaker, and they're subjected to much more like social problems, social barriers, social expectations, and so on. The circumstances for being a boy versus being a girl are completely 100% different in almost every single way. Because I think that's it. Yeah, is that there are different socio-political and like physical differences that I think make it totally different. And that's what I was trying to explain earlier, is that I don't buy into a concept of just because he's a boy and she's a girl, it makes it's still the same. I don't buy that concept, because he's kind of big, she's small or whatever. I don't know. I can't think of a situation where he would be in a position to be scared that she was going to overpower him. That she was going to overpower him. While on the other side of things, I could see a woman being physically fearful should she decline, especially if they're all in the same friend group. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand that from that point of view, but you know how I am about my own consistency, so my value was always going to be wrong this way, wrong that way, and both make me angry.
I can respect that. I can respect.
I know you respect consistency. It's one of the reasons we talk.
Yeah. So, yeah, I understand. Yeah, definitely where you're coming from, and there are a lot of double standards that really annoy me when it comes to like the internet. In real life, to be clear, in real life, it's completely different. A girl and a boy doing the thing. It depends on who's older, and that really, really matters. But like over the internet, everybody's on a level playing field. So boys, girls, it's all the same. Everybody's just text on the screen. And that's, yeah. So I understand where you're coming from. Go ahead.
Your previous opening statement about all this is, about, your viewpoint versus the internet, and how, you have to do X, Y. Truth of the matter is, this is a hard pill for both you and I to swallow. You don't have to say anything.
That's true. I don't plan to, because the very little bit I just talked to a couple of people and they fucking lost their goddamn mind, was like, okay, I'm not touching this shit. I just wanted to have my ducks in a row, because now people have screenshotted that and they're passing it around. And so if I'm ever in the position to have to fucking defend my takes, I kind of went a little wild with it.
Doggone it. You going a little wild tells me you probably blew something up. Where's the tweet? Where's the doggone tweet?
Oh, I didn't make a tweet. It was in replies, but these guys, they said something like, they said mistakes can be forgiven and crimes cannot. And I said, actually, crimes can be forgiven. There's a reason why we don't give life sentences to everyone for everything. And then this person proceeded to accuse me of being a pedophile. So I went off and I said, I hope all of the internet updates that you receive are worth all of the kids you're helping get raped. And they got really
a little wild there, didn't you? Kind of went a little wild.
They got really fucking mad at that one. But they were accusing me first, so I felt like turnabout is fair play. And on the internet, talk shit, get hit. 2 wrongs make a right on Twitter. So it was pretty wild.
Doggone it, stop. Why?
So
yeah, like of course not. You can't forgive crimes. Like we have a penal system. That's why they call it serving your time.
Yeah, because that was another thing, was that they were like, you can't. One thing that really annoys me about furries, I don't know if this is specific to furries, the only time I ever see it is within furry fandom, is people use the victim's feelings to figure out whether or not this person is worthy of vitriol, which is weird to me, because I'm like, if you like molested somebody, and you're like a pedophile and you have this pattern of behavior, but then all of your 18-year-old prior victims are like, no, it's cool. I think it's totally fine. And actually, I loved it. Or whatever. I don't think that we would suddenly be like, well, the victim forgives him, so that means it's okay. Like, I wouldn't, yeah. So I think that the victim's feelings about something is a really bad metric for determining whether or not.
It's a terrible metric, and I'm going to give you an example as to why. All right, so. And unfortunately, real quick, it's not just the furry community, it's human nature.
Oh, awesome.
But, right? So, okay, so when I first came into the brony community, obviously not a fan of the cartoon.
Right.
I came here to try to expose pedophiles because your community sucked at it, like, horrifically. And I mixed it up with people. And some of the people I first mixed it up with were people from the 4B, like, equine something blog, who primarily, like, A-logged Lily for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, God, you guys are pathetic. And someone's like, you don't know what Lily's actually like. I'm like, all right, what does Lily do? She's mean. Me, in my 30s, I'm like, and?
Yeah.
So she's mean and that's it? Has she hurt somebody? Has she assaulted somebody? Has she raped somebody? What is it? And of course, I never got a straight answer. Mm-hmm. It's always emotion. So, we have found that Lily has done some things, not preying on an actual child, but let's just say Lily's gross hypocrisy is something that's going to bite her in the butt sooner or later. Yeah. And I wound up getting a call with somebody I've previously talked to. This person is a Josh Scorcher fanboy. Mm-hmm. Like, if Josh was not married to a woman, I would think this dude was gay for him. And we wound up getting a call, and we were talking about the information. And I said, you two people, because the people I'm turning to, one of them's that guy and the other's another person, like, you guys are going to have a hard time pushing anything about Lily in the negative because you two are well known at this point for obsessing over this person and focusing on the dumbest of possible things. Mm-hmm. And I said, case in point, and I gave the example I gave you, you guys just say, she's mean. That means nothing to a functional adult. He's like, well, excuse us. Like, you came in, you have a, what is it? You're not emotionally intelligent enough to tell that somebody's not just what their feelings are. She's bullying. I said, who is she bullied? If she's bullied XYZ, did she take their lunch money? She shoved them in lockers? Well, no, but she sent fans to harass them, then make fun of them because they're dumb.
Right. And the block button is free.
Right there.
I have never once in my entire life ever gone protected, not one time. And it's really... What was that Tyler the Creator tweet that was so good?
Yeah, still there.
Oh my God.
In that call, the person who was on my side of the dispute actually sent me that tweet. Like, yeah, that is how you respond to quote unquote cyberbullying. You either turn the computer off or you make fun of them. I'm like, your community has never learned how to deal with something intellectually on like an emotional basis. Don't try to come at me. And then the dude's like, well, you just don't care about anybody. And I'm sitting here like, you worthless piece of dog semen. For the past 4 years, I've been trying to help your stupid community while you've been crying because somebody was mean to you on the internet. Please kill yourself. I didn't say that in call, but I wanted to.
Right. Oh man.
It's like, have you ever seen the second Ninja Turtle film?
Was it live action?
Yeah.
No, I didn't even know it existed.
It's a shame because it had Vanilla Ice in it.
Oh no.
Okay, so in the sequel, Shredder decides he needs a pair of mutants because the turtles beat him. So he gets a scientist to make the mutagen and turn two animals into fierce savages, and he walks into them, and they have some level of sentience. He's like, you will bow to me. I am your creator. I am your master. And the mutants look at each other, look at him, say, Mama? Mama! And they try to hug him, and he just storms out of there like, babies! They're babies! That's how I feel in your community.
Yeah. Oh, shit. That's for true. I'm doing less horse stuff now. I'm involved more in the furry crap, and holy shit. The brony drama is one thing, but the furry drama, like, is unfucking believable. That shit is... Now, bronies were one thing. Bronies would blow the fuck up over stuff that people didn't even do. That was some really wild shit. Well, like, people would... Like, I don't know. Somebody could come out and say, ladies and gentlemen, before giving a speech... And people would be like, he's transphobic, he's fucking blah, 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 fucking, and he's not inclusive of non-binary people or whatever. This is super problematic. And yeah, and if he did not like get on a live stream or something and be like, I know I said ladies and gentlemen before a speech. I am literally Hitler. I just hope you can forgive me. Then like people would claim that he didn't apologize good enough or some shit. It was just, the bronies are fucking wild. But the furry fandom is just so much bigger that you can't just block everybody.
It's bigger and dumber. Congratulations. You are now occupying space with Cord Kitty, the person who threw you under a bus. This has got to be fun to figure out.
The Cord Kitty?
He's in the furry community. I'm sure you'll run into him again.
Cord Kitty? He threw me under the bus?
Remember when you were trying to act as like sort of his lawyer in that call we had?
Oh, okay, yeah, I know who you're talking about now, yeah. I forget that dude exists. Every once in a while, I'll see him on my beta account, and I've talked to him a couple of times. And it was like, he kept quote tweeting Coyote Lovely, and I was like, dog, just shut the fuck up. You are so stupid, you can't defend yourself, okay? You need to just not interact with these people. You're just generating their content. And he's just like, oh, I know, or something like that. This is so much fun for me. And then he's DMing me later that night being like, they're bullying me so much, I want to kill myself, and all this other shit. And I'm just like, then block them, you fucking moron. It was something else. He is a wild character.
That dude has tagged me in 3 different threads when he has had me blocked forever.
Oh my god.
It's like, well, this guy told me to kill myself in a stream, and nobody corrected him, therefore they're implicit. And I've actually said, yeah, I did say that, and I don't apologize for it. What's your point? You can never cancel somebody over what they own.
Yeah. That's kind of the... I didn't do it on purpose, but I've realized this, that I've never had any, like, huge, giant cancelings. I've had a couple of times where I've fought with lots of people all at the same time, like entire communities, but I've never been like canceled and had to go on like an apology tour or whatever, because what I have found is that usually, especially in furry and brony spaces, is that there is literally no reason to publicly apologize for literally anything at all ever. Never.
I had Bronny Buck pull me into a call like months ago.
Yeah.
One of his friends, really poorly, like, he's right wing, which in and of itself, it's whatever. But like,
right.
worded something extremely poorly. Like it's obvious there was no malice there, no hate. He's just really freaking stupid about something. And then he
Are you
got
talking
banned
about
from a
Brony
convention.
debates? I'm sorry.
Yeah, Brony debates one
Yeah,
of his
yeah.
friends.
Okay.
Cruiser, I think his name is. And he's like, well, maybe I should apologize for it. And Ronnie said, no, never apologize for anything. I said, you should only apologize if you think you've done something wrong and it's genuine. Otherwise, what are you apologizing for? Just to placate a bunch of madmen? Like this? Do you really want to go to a convention with people who get this twisted up over a misspeak? Like, I
Yeah.
wouldn't. So, and on top of that, how are they going to ban you? I don't know what you look like. They don't have your real name.
Yeah. That
Vito
and
went to BronyCon. He got one. He got in, and he was banned. Doesn't matter.
who was it?
Vito, when he was banned from BronyCon, this is before anybody knew he was a predator.
Oh.
Like he was banned from BronyCon. He still showed up. He still attended the convention because anybody can go there and buy a badge.
Yeah. That and yeah, because like Maned Wolfie, the green dude with the cum pizza. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about.
Okay. I was like, oh no, I don't want to have to break the news. Okay. So that guy was at Furry Week in Atlanta. And as far as I understand, he's banned. But he was there. And then, what's another one? Even Don't Hug Cacti. Don't Hug Cacti is I don't think they're banned from conventions, but they're at the center of some super mega huge gigantic drama, and they are still going to conventions and vending. So yeah, that's some wild. Yeah, I don't know. It seems like in the furry community, it seems like nobody cares, but there are a very large subsection, I would say around half, that are just entirely online 100%, and they treat the furry fandom like it's their own personal friend group, and it's like if you do anything wrong at any point ever in your entire life, then anybody you associate with is also implicated in a bunch of other shit. So like here's kind of my philosophy. Not my philosophy, I actually don't have a philosophy about Twitter. I just do whatever the fuck I want on Twitter.
That is a philosophy.
I guess though that is true. Technically speaking, my thing about Twitter is that I'll see something objectionable and I'll just kind of go into the replies and talk to some people, and if they lose their fucking minds, then I'll fight with them. And then if they write call out posts about it and it starts to blow up and I start hearing about it more and more and it doesn't go away in like a couple hours or so, then it's okay, I'm going scorched fucking earth, and anybody that agrees with them, they will have me blocked by the end of the day. That's what happened with the xenogender shit. Is that I said some shit in replies with somebody, and then they started writing call out posts about how transphobic I was, and then I would have people in my replies calling me transphobic on shit that had nothing to do with the xenogender shit. And then it was like, oh, okay, so everybody, you and everybody you know will have me blocked by the end of the week. And I just doubled down and doubled down and doubled down and just tried to think of all the weirdest, most fucked up shit about trans people that I could possibly say for like a week straight. It was a good fucking time. So hopefully this won't blow up and I won't have to torch bridges with everybody over this Skye Cabot thing, especially because she's so stupid. She's such an idiot. Yeah, she's definitely a moron for having done this.
Yeah. I mean, if it's any consolation, I had one dude like was going on 4chan and then tried to hop in my live stream and talk about how I'm apparently a sex trafficker.
Really?
A pedophile. Yeah, I'm apparently a pedophile. And not only am I a pedophile, I helped Vita traffic somebody, and we share a victim, apparently. Now, this person's obviously retarded, because if I was doing any of that, Vita absolutely would have told everybody the moment he got outed, because he wouldn't have gone down alone.
Right.
And here's the kicker. This dude said, oh, you're going to enjoy next week live. It was going to be the best week of your life, and that was a month ago. But it gets even better. I found his Twitter account. Guess what's in his likes?
No shit. It's going to be a lolly shit, ain't it?
You're right.
Oh my god.
I'm gonna share it. Give me a second. I've obviously edited it, but let me see here where I put it.
Every time. Every time.
Every time.
These people that make really empty accusations like that, they always turn out to be covering for their own shit. You know what I think is funny about, because like in my philosophy, like the whole rule utilitarian memes, I've been like, I actually started a doc of like trying to record down like these are my, oh that's gay. Might as well show the full pic.
Well, it's worse. It's worse because the show that's from is literally called 12 Forever.
Oh no. So yeah, that's funny as fuck. What I think is funny about the lolly shit or whatever is like I've started this doc talking about like the way I think that the world should work and how society should be structured and everything like that. And I'm trying to develop a consistent moral philosophy that you can put questions into and generate consistent answers. And the rule utilitarian thing is kind of cool, but I think it needs to go deeper. So I'm working on some like a thing that I'm calling law consequentialism. It's really kind of a pet project. I don't think I'm ever going to put it out anywhere. I've thought about like reading it on stream and just to have a place, that kind of thing. But anyway, I super don't care about like what people think about while they're jacking off. If somebody wants to look at lolly stuff or whatever, I super don't care. But the really funny part about that is when people like Cord Kitty cope so hard to be like, no, I'm like not a pedophile at all. I just like jerking off to pictures of little girls. And it's like, dog, do you not fucking hear yourself? Like, just come clean. You know, the first step to getting therapeutic help, you know, to making sure that you're not going to translate this to real life is just admitting it to yourself. It was, oh my God, it's funny as fuck. Him saying, oh yeah, I'm into zoophilia, but I'm like not a zoophile. I put zoophilia under my faves, but I'm not a zoophile. And it's like, dog, who do you think you're fooling with this?
I think he thinks he's fooling a lot of people because he genuinely thinks he's the smartest person in the room.
Yeah, he's pretty fucking dumb. I was drunk as fuck probably like 2 weeks ago, and I sent him messages on Telegram, and I was just like, I can't remember what I said exactly because I was super drunk, but I remember calling him retarded a bunch of times. And like I was like, why is your head not screwed on straight? You're a fucking moron. You just like, I don't know. I was going the fuck off on him, and on Telegram, but it was, oh my God, it was a fucking issue. And then that was the same night that he was telling me about how my life is over. They've ruined my lives. I'll never get a girlfriend now because all the furries hate me. And it's like, dog, do you know that there are people outside of furry, right? And, oh my God, dating a normie is so worth it. I would, oh my God, never ever date within the furry fandom. What the fuck is wrong with people?
No, I've told him similar things. He didn't listen. Then again, I'm his nemesis, even though I keep forgetting he exists until he tags me again.
Right. And it's, oh yeah, that guy. Yeah, I hate that guy. Yeah. I've been through a similar thing.
Really?
Yeah. That was the kind of, it's similar to the FNGR stuff. Where apparently he hated my fucking guts and I had forgot that he existed. So the very second that I mentioned him, then he decided to just absolutely go off the deep end. And whatever. Oh, also, another thing that I'm like really all about that I was called utopian for. And I don't know. I've never been called utopian before. I'm usually super realistic about the things that I believe and the things that I advocate for. So I've never been called utopian. So it's given me pause and I really have to think about it. But I believe that literally everyone deserves a second chance, that you can basically whatever, like basically the first one's free. Anytime you do something bad, you get the first one for free. And that I think that most people will either realize their wrongdoing and like correct the behavior, especially if there's enough or whatever. If they seem to genuinely understand what they did was wrong, then I think people should get a second chance. And people were calling me utopian for that, and it was like, oh man, no. I don't want to do that.
Like, for most things, yeah, I'd say people deserve second, third, fourth, fifth chances. People are imperfect. I mean, again, although it seems we are diametrically opposed in some cases, I'm a Christian, so obviously the concept of forgiveness exists. There are some things that, though, you forgive people for, but you still don't want them in your doggone business.
Right.
And this idea, as much as I go hard on pedophiles just in general, it primarily is reserved for offending pedophiles. Like, one of the things about Lily, people were saying, well, Lily's a pedophile. Well, okay. They brought me in, like, well, we didn't think of anybody better to expose her than you. I'm like, okay. She harmed any kids? Well, no. Guess what?
Yeah.
I can't do anything. It's like,
Right.
yeah, she wrote really gross, really weird stuff that absolutely makes her a complete and utter hypocrite. Clown on her. But I can't take her to the police for something she didn't do.
Right.
I can't prosecute somebody for thought crime. So it's like, yeah, if it's somebody who is like a pedophile in the sense that they have attraction to children, what they need is help.
Yeah. Sometimes. Yeah, sometimes if that person is so the way I've explained it, because on my bait account I get weird fucking people in my replies. In fact, have you ever heard of a person called Chaos Kitty?
Oh, you kidding? You got chaos. I think that's one of Quantum Kitty's alts.
Oh yes, it is. That is true.
Fantastic.
So that person made me lose a fucking bet. First of all, I was like,
terrible.
yes, exactly. So I said that I had this bet with two different people. It was paying 2-1. So if they won, they got $10. If I won, then no, the other way around. That I would pay them $20 each if I won the bet, and they would pay me $10 each, or whatever. So my bet was that there is not such a thing as a right-winger, Trumple voting zoophile. This doesn't exist. I made this zoophile GOP account because it's such a ridiculous idea to me that these people definitely don't fucking exist. And then this fucking Quantum Kitty person hops in my Telegram and it's just like, oh yeah, dude, I'm a Trump voter, and I don't think I'm not gonna like lionize him or whatever. I don't think he's like the second coming of Jesus or whatever. But yeah, I voted for Trump and I am a zoo and all this other shit. And I was like, you motherfucker. And so yeah, I paid them that money. But
Yeah, Quantum Kitty, he's military.
is he really?
Yeah, I doxed him.
Oh.
Like the dude's like actually having sex with like animal corpses and whatnot.
Oh wow.
He's 12 different types of men. He also sent like children pornography.
I'm so confused because that's a dishonorable discharge.
Correct. It is, but it's hard to find out where he's located in terms of his base. Like, I found his home address.
Mm-hmm.
Where he's stationed is another matter.
Yeah. So yeah, that's weird. But anyway, the one thing that is super interesting about that dude was something. Motherfucker, I can't remember what I was saying. Oh, I have weird people, like, self-proclaimed maps and shit like that will jump into my replies, and I can't remember why I brought them up, but I did it for a reason, probably. But yeah, the Quantum Kitty, Chaos Kitty, I remember I was going to say something else about Quantum Kitty, is that he runs an account called The Regulator, I guess. And it was funny as fuck. He messages me and was just like, you got to be careful out here, man. It took me 10 minutes to find your docs. And of course my response was, dude, I've been doxed twice. You were like, this is not anything new to me. This would not be my first rodeo. You get some weird phone calls every once in a while. Sometimes they email your employer or whatever, which I have taken precautions first of all, if I were to get fired, I've got a second thing lined up. And second, I've told all my bosses what I do on Twitter. So if they get weird phone calls or emails being like, your employee runs this zoophile GOP account, they already know about it. That was one of the problems that I ran into at the car dealership many, many years ago. But he, then I said, you know what? I want to see the docs. I want to know what you've got dug up because I want to see if they've updated it. Because there's somebody out there that's just keeping track of me, and it's really weird, but it's just a thing, I guess. And then, but apparently he didn't. So he sends me the docs of a Christopher Jacob Smith that lives in Owasso, Oklahoma, and then like 2 phone numbers and a couple of email addresses and like usernames and whatever. Nothing even close to related to me. And I was super, super tempted to just be like, oh man, you got me. But I didn't. I just said, yeah, well, none of that's me, but okay. And then he's like, oh, well, I didn't do like a deep dive into you or anything like that. So, yeah.
I actually had somebody years ago try to pull that with me. I put my name out there. I said my address on streams. I had this one dude, and I still don't know who he is, and I don't know what his damage was. But he came in my DMs on Twitter. He's like, ha. How's it going, Robert? I literally asked him, who's Robert? My name's Thomas. You're not fooling me. Your name's Robert. You live in Delaware. So I, like, okay. How am I that? And he showed a picture of the house. Not mine, obviously. Like, I found your location. I'm like, okay, tell me how you found it. He's like, I found your screen name on an old Thundercat message board. And now I was able to trace it to you through your eBay store. So I go on to that Thundercat message board, which is thundercats.ws. It's long since shut down. There's 2 LioConvoy's there.
Oh, really?
He got the wrong one. And I'm like, it's not me, you idiot. Prove it. So I take a literal video of my front door with my address. I'm like, it's not me, you idiot. Well, you good job trying to convince me. I guess I'll see you around. And he just deactivated his account. I'm just sitting there like, huh.
Coyote's ready to be dragged in if you know how to do that.
I do.
He said you should be able to. I don't know how. I'm dumb. LOL.
Your profile picture worries me.
What's wrong with his profile picture?
His profile picture is a super jet Coyote Lovely with an angular face.
Oh.
You're not a fan of Himbo Coyote?
I am not a fan of Himbo Coyote.
It's too hot.
He just wants to hug you.
I am not a fan of I am not a fan of Himbody.
Himbody
wants to hug you close, and he wants to tell you that it's okay.
Well, I would prefer to not be lied to.
It's like, come here. Let Daddy just give you a couple snugs.
I'm older than you.
I'll make you call me Daddy.
You're gonna make me do nothing.
You've seen me.
Cringe.
I'm jacked.
I've seen you. You look like a scrawnier version of the Fonz.
And you see me, I'm all jacked right now, and once I get my hands on you, you're gonna be jacked too.
This is not furry force. It's not.
You've heard of a pump and dump scam? Well, that's exactly what it is when you get close to me and I hold you tight.
The first 2 knuckles is not gay.
Anyway.
Yeah, the first 2 knuckles is not gay, and people are scared to put anything up their butts because it might make them gay, and I like that fear.
Wait, hold on, is Sonic and Knuckles gay then?
Dude, Knuckles, if you get the first 2 knuckles from Knuckles, then you are on some new kind of shit, man, I swear.
Is that why he doesn't chuckle?
Adventurous. Okay, so I wanted to talk to you about the legal take or whatever. I don't know if I've gone on this spiel with you before, but whenever we're deciding whether or not something is wrong or immoral or whatever, in my personal opinion, I think the law is entirely irrelevant, especially because if what you're saying is true, like if I were to just take your opinion at face value and say that you are absolutely 100% correct, then that would mean that this Skye person did nothing wrong, that they are completely and 100% fine, and it doesn't matter at all, because if they were just a couple miles north, then they would have been totally and free and in the clear. And that...
Oh.
Go ahead.
Can I clarify what I was saying? I mean, when I hold on, let me actually just look at what I was saying again, just so I can not. I don't want to misrepresent anything I said or anything I'm going to say now. I don't want to like start fucking changing the story. That's not what I want to
Okay.
do. Let me see.
I mean, in Georgia, the
Okay.
age of consent is 16, so I guess even if I didn't like it, even if that's even excuse me, given that there's nothing illegal, if that were the situation, it's not really up to me to say that's bad or wrong, end quote. The law says it's fine if we're going by that hypothetical, and since it's not happening to me or anyone I know, not my business.
All right. So I just read that as well. I still would have a personal problem with it, but that said, I think the difference that I'm trying to point out here is that given that no crime in that situation would have actually been committed, I wouldn't necessarily be justified in voicing my own problems that I have with it, I guess is the way to put it. That's a little more clear. My problems wouldn't change just because of their geographic location, mostly because I've grown up in places where the age of consent is 18, like hard line. And I'm very much accustomed to that. I think that's the appropriate age of consent to have. But if they were both in a location where the age of consent was 16 and they did not have sex in a location where the age of consent was any higher than that, unless they were above that age, even though I would still have a problem with the whole relationship and think it was still really creepy, gross, and disgusting, I wouldn't exactly be justified in trying to say, "Oh, you're a groomer" or anything like that, because, well, based on the confines of the law where they were in that hypothetical, that's simply not the case. And it's one of those things that groomer as a term is entirely based in the realm of legalism, and it's a way to actually voice a lot of the moral problems that you have with situations like this. So even if I have a moral problem with it, which I still would, it's not illegal, and it makes it not really my right to start calling them like these sorts of legal terms that would not be accurate.
Is grooming a legal term?
Yeah,
I believe it
actually,
is.
it actually is in some states. Other states is just call it like aiding to the delinquency of a minor, or in some cases like sexual something of a minor. It all
Okay.
varies from state to state.
There was
I mean,
because in Oklahoma the age of consent is 16, and it's weird because once you're 16 in Oklahoma, you are free to date anybody all the way up to year 100, which is weird, but not literally 100. You get the idea. You're infinitely ready to go. Like in Oklahoma, it's totally and completely fine.
I mean, I guess
101 year old gets arrested for
Going to
dating
jail.
yeah.
You knew where I was
I
going.
guess grooming doesn't technically have to be a legal term, because there are situations where adults can be groomed by like cult leaders and
Right.
shit like that has
Yes.
happened. But the way that I've perceived it within the context of like a minor and an adult is very much based within like legalism. So I wouldn't call it grooming if they were in a place where both of them were above the age of consent. Even if I disagree with it morally, I wouldn't feel justified calling that a case of grooming or even orbiting at that point, because I mean you can't necessarily. I mean, aside from like any kind of social way where it's just like, oh, he's sort of orbiting someone famous kind of thing. Like, 'cause there's that kind of slang as well with orbiting, but that's neither here nor there. I wouldn't call it these two things with like a sense of condemnation of this person's character, because within the realm of legalism, if they were in the state of Georgia, it's not a crime, and even if I have a problem with it, my problem is my problem, and I'll deal with it in my own way.
See, I don't think something has to be illegal for you to criticize it, because I think that there are lots of things that are legal that are definitely worth moral criticism. And so even if, because you know, that's kind of my point though, is that it would be technically legal, for like a senior in high school to date a freshman, but I wouldn't call them like a pedophile or a groomer or anything like that. But that would be behavior that I think should be discouraged, even though crazy weird shit happens in high school. But yeah, that's kind of my point with the Skye Cabot person, is that I don't think that they've done anything like horrifically immoral, not anywhere even close to what is being accused. I don't think that it's correct. I don't think it's right for them to be called a groomer or a pedophile, or
I
whatever. Because to me, grooming is specifically whenever you approach someone with a false pretense in order to gain sexual favors or a sexual relationship with that person. Do you see what I'm saying? So like if you were to
I
take
do.
tap dancing just to get into a guy's pants, but you didn't actually give a fuck about tap dancing at all, that would essentially be like grooming. It's like a form of manipulation, and that would be my problem with it.
My problem here is that there's actually a problem that I have with both sides of the situation right now, which is a lot of people are throwing the term pedophile around, which I think is inaccurate because, according to KitKat's own testimony, they were 16. Even if it's just on a technicality and you want to say, oh, a hebephile or whatever the fuck, it still matters because you can't start throwing around certain terminology as though it's meaningless, and because that's how it becomes meaningless.
Yeah.
So if everyone's a fucking pedophile, then it's just one of those things where it's like that word needs to mean something when it's used, so you need to use it accurately. And in this context, regardless of what happened, because they were not within the realm of what you would call pedophilia, you can't rightly call Skye a pedophile, regardless of how any of these events played out.
Right.
Anyone who's calling Skye a pedophile, I say, is completely either one, ignorant as fuck, and if they're not ignorant and they know the difference, they're just an asshole.
I really honestly believe that, like we were discussing in DMs before, I super duper believe that this guy is trying to take down a competitor. I think this call out post fucking reeks of bullshit, and I believe that they're having in my personal opinion, as I was explaining to Lio, is that this feels like a really stupid, terminally autistic 22-year-old who I guess finds some camaraderie with a 16-year-old because they're mentally stunted, maybe, or something like that, just from my perspective of them. And especially,
can we just clarify real quick, were they 22 or 24? Because I think it could be either one. I'm not sure, but I just want to make sure that's cleared up. Because to me, that makes something of a difference.
A huge difference, enormous difference to me. But she's 20. She was 22 for sure. Because she was born February of 1992, and he was born in 99. So they're about 6.5 years apart, maybe 7. We'll just round it up to say 7. So she was 22 and he was 16. And yeah, that's a big difference to me, because then he would be 17 and she'd be 25, and that would be way outside the bounds of like, even if you're terminally autistic. Because in my personal view, if you are at basically a 4-year age gap, I'm pretty sure these people could be going to high school. It's weird. This behavior should be discouraged, but it's not really abnormally whatever. And when you get to like 5 and 6 years, you're getting a little more gray. And these people are almost 7 years apart. And I'm thinking that should definitely be discouraged on pretty much every level because of shit like this, of what is turned into. But I don't think that it's fair, or I would not do the clarification of hebephile or whatever the fuck you call it. I don't think that this person has any kind of like pathology behind it. I think she's just stupid. Because she's dated, when she was 22 or whatever, she dated adults for a while. And then she met as far as I understand, as far as I read on tweets, that she dated adults and was perfectly happy with adults, and then met this 16-year-old and then whatever, and then went back to adults. So I don't think dating underage people is a pattern of behavior that's been established. So I don't think that's like a pathology there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. I agree. There's probably no pathology. But what I just want to clarify, what year did this all begin? Because if she was born in 1992, that makes her a year younger than me, which means right now she's 30.
14. 2014. Yeah, she'll be 30 this year. And he's 23, and she will... Or, no, she already turned 30. So she's 30, and he's 23 now.
Okay. I was trying to establish what year it was.
Yeah, and I want to say he waited 4 years to write this call-out post. And... I don't know. It's just super sus to me. I think that he's lying about some things. I think that he's blowing up other things. For instance, one thing. Let me scroll down real quick. He said that she made me out to be an abuser or something like that. And I read some of her tweets about him, and she was saying things about him that was like some typical shit that you would say about any ex. It would be some shit that I would say about my ex-wife. So it wasn't like particularly vitriolic or whatever. So he's definitely blowing this up way bigger than it should be, and she's definitely a fucking moron for getting involved with him. But other than that, other than the age gap, this appears from the outside, in my perspective, to just be a regular bog standard breakup, and now, but it's being blown up into a whole huge thing.
Well, there is one thing that I want to point out, and again, I have no evidence to support this. This is just a possibility, so it's probably not worth very much unless there's actual someone can verify this is the case.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I do know is that in some events, like let's just say for this hypothetical, you don't have to agree in reality that this is the case.
Right.
Let's say for this hypothetical that this event did happen. Let's say for this hypothetical that he was absolutely groomed, there was wrongdoing. We would also need to understand like what is the actual statute of limitations on these actions within both areas that they were in, because if it's there, if you were to tell me the statute of limitations has not passed on these events, I would say, yeah, this is incredibly suspicious. Why didn't he go to the cops? But if you also then told me afterwards, like, oh no, statute of limitations have actually passed, he can't get justice any other way except trying to tell his side of the story, I'd be like, this makes more sense to me now. So it's one of those things that based on what that answer is, that changes my perspective on how suspicious it is.
I think in my if I were in his position right now, and let's say that it was groomed, like he was we had established a pattern of behavior, and it showed that she was using manipulation in order to keep him around, or like isolate him in order to keep her for himself, or keep him for herself while she was waiting for him to turn 18 or some crazy shit like that. If it was definitely a grooming case, if I were him, I would be afraid to go to the police, because I don't think he's got any evidence. I don't think he's got any real actual evidence that would fly in a court of law. So I think that if it were true, if there was more than this, because this call out post is bullshit, he needs way more than this. If he can come up with something else that like shows the behaviors I described, then I think that he would be correct in feeling like this was his only option, in my opinion.
All right. Because to me, after reading the document, after looking at everything, I'm still on the fence about a lot of these things. I think a lot of these claims, while some of them appear at minimum to have a good start attached to proving it, that's really a lot of all there is. A good start if you want to prove your case. Yeah. I think there's only one thing that was actually, that I genuinely agreed this is almost certainly something that occurred, which is the claim of orbiting, which I talked to you about.
Right.
And I told you why that I believe that.
Right.
I think that's the only thing I was unequivocally convinced and sold on. And orbiting in and of itself is, again, a good start towards proving grooming, but it's not a slam dunk. There's grooming here because there's orbiting. It's not a smoke, there's fire situation. So I think orbiting is absolutely wrong, and I am convinced that this is something she has done to him. That said, everything else, it's open to interpretation, unfortunately, and there needs to be more evidence.
I think, yeah, I mean, I would agree that orbiting is wrong if there was more to it. I think that for it to be immoral, I think orbiting is necessary but insufficient. Does that make sense?
I understand. I think I understand.
It's got to be, yeah, it's got to be more. So, like, for instance, one of my problems that I have with this, with the people's reaction to this, is that a lot of people just go, huh, age gap, LOL, she's definitely a pedophile, or whatever. And that's pretty much the only thing that anybody's going off of, which is really annoying, because the age gap to me is necessary but insufficient. Well, no, it's not even really necessary, because if she had done anything genuinely abusive or whatever, anything that he is claiming, well, I guess it's anything he's claiming necessitates an age gap, I guess, in some case. But my point is that the age gap is necessary but insufficient, and that seems to be the only thing that is objectively provable, that they had a relationship that had this really wide age gap. The orbiting thing, I would not disagree. I think she definitely, well, that depends. How do we define orbiting, now that I'm thinking of it? I'm going to try to find the most accurate definition that we can both agree on. I want to know your, I want to know your definition of orbiting. Like, how, when you think of orbiting,
All right, when I think of orbiting, what I think of is an individual who is an adult of a significant age gap, like beyond 4 years. And in this context, that is slightly beyond 4 years. But
Very
I always think
slightly.
beyond 4 years because whenever I think of 4 years, I always think, okay, they still could have been in high school together at some point.
Right.
It's not outside of the bounds of reality, especially because some states have Romeo and Juliet laws. We don't know if these two were dating before that person turned 8. There's a lot of questions with only 4 years or less. So I like to put it outside of the 4 year gap.
Yeah.
Um,
I think that
so,
these people, to be
especially
clear, I think they were definitely dating when he was like
yeah.
16, for sure.
Right. So, what I consider to be orbiting, and again, I'm not a doctor, so but this is just my definition, is that it is an adult and a minor of a significant age gap, more than 4 years, where the adult does not have to be engaging in a sexual relationship, but displays heavy interest in a sexual relationship when that minor hits the age of 18 and continuously kind of gravitates around the minor, stays near them, stays present, like, oh, I'll wait for you, we'll wait, we won't do anything until you this, that, and the other kind of thing.
Hmm.
Like that, to me, that's orbiting. Like when I think of that, when I think of that kind of like joke that I explained to you, like through that Adam West and Meg from Family Guy, weird comparison, I know, but that's how
No,
I
understand.
view orbiting relationships, where it's like, oh, we're not actually doing anything wrong, we're going out on dates and stuff and we're hanging out, we're friends, but we haven't had sex, and that's fine. And I always think of this like, this to me is orbiting, and it is a first step towards grooming, or at least a component of grooming. Grooming has multiple components, in my
Right.
opinion. I'm not an
Necessary but
expert on that subject.
insufficient. Right.
Right. It is part of what grooming is, absolutely, but it is only one component of many.
Right. Okay. So we totally agree on what orbiting is. I'm totally in whatever it is. Like orbiting to me is kind of like the legal thing. I understand that it is a necessary but insufficient part of like grooming, but it to me is also it's more legal stuff, and I just do not give a fuck about the law like at all. I feel like I can arrive at what is right or wrong independent of the law. So when somebody is, quote, orbiting, they're staying around somebody or going on dates or whatever, but they're waiting to have sex because that would be where they would run into legal trouble. I don't actually care about any of that. I don't have a problem with that at all. I could understand though, but well, no, I think it would have to blow up into like grooming territory for me to really care. I think it would have to be, grooming as in like you have to meet this person and stick around by them in a way that is disingenuous, that you're doing so for that specific purpose, that you're isolating them from potential other partners in order to keep them around. This is grooming to me, all of the components of grooming, and orbiting is part of that, but I don't think that I really care about it in and of itself, to be honest.
And that's fine. The reason to me that I am invested in this particular situation, seeing how things play out and trying to at least understand where the truth actually lies, because like most attorneys will tell you, one side has one story, the other side has another story, and the truth is usually somewhere in between.
Right.
It's two reasons that I'm generally very interested in the story. One is the severity that Skye went to while orbiting. For example, you don't simply move all the way across the country. Like most adults don't fucking do that for another adult, and then this
Right.
person's doing it with a kid. That's incredibly strange. I think that's just you could agree with at least that it's strange as fuck that an adult would do that with a 16.
I think it's most
And-
definitely strange, weird, cringe, all of those words. And like I was telling Lio,
Right.
the parents in that situation are either completely and totally brain dead retarded, or he's straight up lying to his parents. He's either lying to us about being dishonest with his parents, or his parents are fucking retarded. And then Lio said that he's a furry, so it's probably both.
Lila's got a good head on his shoulders. She's probably right. But I do want to clarify really quickly the second reason, if I can, why I'm interested in seeing and why I'm interested in like following this story and like trying to get to the truth is because a lot of people within the furry fandom are minors, and the number of minors in the fandom is going up at yearly. Like it's something that the fandom is very much highly comprised of children. And I find it that if this person is displaying predatory conduct towards children, that's not somebody I'm comfortable being in a fandom filled with children. That's the limit to
Right.
my investment in this.
And I understand where you're coming from with that, but I don't know if you were in the call when I explained. I don't think that we've really established a pattern of behavior of like going after younger people. I don't think I think this one person might have been the only time, and like I said, she might be a retarded 22-year-old, like, or not retarded, you know what I mean, like autistic 22-year-old. So it's. I feel like there are enough. What is it? The beyond a reasonable doubt type of shit. I feel like there's enough explanations to say that this person probably fucked up, and they knew that they were fucking up at the time, but then also didn't give a shit about fucking up and thought that this was going to be like totally fine as long as you waited until you're like, you know, they would last forever type of shit. So it would be cool, but then they broke up, and it was, as far as I can tell, a really ugly breakup where she was talking shit about him, and then he apparently is coming out with this. And I don't think he has shown anything. He's talking about how she labeled me an abuser after the fact, like in 2018 or something like that. She claimed that I was an abuser, and I don't see anything. I don't see anything like that. She didn't say anything. This Jesse Frost person said something, and then Favaris, that person said something, talking shit about KitKat, completely independently of Skye Cabot. It appears to be, that is. And yeah, that appears to be going on independently of Skye, and then Skye kind of hopped into the replies on it. And I sent this to Lio, but that Favaris person, his new Twitter thing is Thunderbeast with 2 U's. But he's protected right now, so I wasn't able to go look for context, which really sucks. Because there's screen caps in there, and I don't know who those people are. I don't know who those people are, like, or whatever, but it's covering the identity of the person speaking, except in one of them. My point is that if it turned out that he was... I don't think this Skye person did that. That's another thing, that she tried to isolate him from his friend group or something else. I don't know. Like I said, the whole call-out post stinks to high heaven. She's an idiot and she did something wrong, but I don't think that it even close rises to the level of what people are saying it is. If that makes sense, I guess.
I mean, it makes sense. I think, like I said, I think that the truth is probably somewhere in between both of their stories. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to interview her as well. Like, there were multiple reasons I wanted that interview. One is to know what her unequivocal side was. 2 was to establish that orbiting was the case. And 3 is to try to see how honest she would be about anything besides. So there was going to be questions I already knew the answers to, sprinkled in the same way I did with the Sappho video that I did.
Yeah.
And I thought it was important to try to at least understand anything coming from her side of events. But that, regardless, that said, fuck, I had a point to make, but I forget what it was. Shit. What was it? I'm thinking.
Are you still smoking?
Words are hard. Not weed. Not right now.
Oh, you smoke cigarettes?
Yeah.
How expensive?
Okay, I think I remember the point.
I don't know what. Oh, go ahead.
Okay, the point that I was gonna make is that I agree. I was there for the pathology conversation. I agree that there's probably no pathology, that there's no established pattern. I understand that. The way that I see it, though, is that if she actually knew what she was doing was wrong, if she acknowledged that at the time they were dating, she knew it was wrong. I know I shouldn't be doing this, but fuck it, I'm gonna do it anyway. And she was trying to be, smart enough to not do anything that could get her in legal trouble until they were like actual adults. To me, that's a very frightening possibility.
No,
given
she did,
that
though. She
yeah,
did.
okay. Okay.
She had sex with him when she had sex with him when he was 16 in Florida, and then they moved to Arizona and they continued to have sex, and both states are the age of consent is 18. So I feel like as the the other side of that is I feel like the innocent explanation for that is that she's in love with this guy, but she's worried about getting in legal trouble, so she asks him to, we're going to do this on the DL. And apparently they sold it so well that his parents bought into it, but I don't believe that his parents bought into it. I think his parents were just cool with it. And so if the 22-year-old and the 16-year-old are getting it on under his parents' roof and the parents are okay with it, then I have no idea really where Skye Cabot's supposed to know that, like, she's damaging him or whatever. You know what I mean?
I mean, I just want to finish my point very quickly, which is
sorry.
that I it's okay. I do think that it is somewhat an alarming thing if she's willing to basically say fuck it, I don't care, in regards to like the idea that this is wrong. And to me, that's one of those things where, like, you're right. I wouldn't call her a pedophile or hemophile. There's no pathology. I understand that. It's the simple fact that she will look at the correct answer and discard it in favor of what she wants that I find incredibly alarming in that context, especially with the number of children in the fandom. But addressing your current point,
I can see that.
Addressing your current point, which is that I think it's reasonable to say that she should have been adult enough to look at this and think, this is not something that I would legally be permitted to do, or even other people would, or even take legalism out of it. Let's take legalism completely out of it for this.
Right,
for this
fair.
Most other people that I know would probably not be okay with this situation. Does that mean there's probably something wrong with me doing this? Even if you're not basing it off your own morality, even if you're not basing it off the person who's with you at the time, there are ways that you can judge these things by, like, thinking about it a little bit more critically before you just outright throw everything by the wayside and just think, like let's say, like, I was going to do something, but I thought to myself, okay, is this something that Lio here would have a problem with, even though it's not something that directly affects him? It's just would he find this morally questionable? If the answer is yes, it's like, why would he find that morally questionable? And you can start to sort of understand where you might be doing something wrong just off of the people you know and, like, how they might react to hearing you've done this. I finished.
Okay, good. Yeah, you were saying that, and I totally get that, but like I said, I think on the other side of that, if I were in Skye's position, which I haven't really been in, but, like, I don't want to relate it really that much because the age gap was not punch something for real. Anyway, so in the I guess it's somewhat similar maybe. When I was 18 and my first girlfriend was 15, like, I knew that people would have a problem with that, but I was, like, so convinced that we were going to last forever and ever, and we're never going to have any problems at all ever, and it was really fucking stupid. And I'm thinking that it's possible to be a dipshit 22-year-old and think that, well, it's going to last forever, so it's going to be fine type of shit, I guess. It's just, ugh.
I mean, I get where you're coming from, but the way that I see it is that they should have still, like, it did fall on them to be the adult in the situation, and in my opinion, 22 is old enough that there should have at least been that apprehension, that second guess, second thought, second whatever, that gives you pause to understand, I'm playing by a different rule set at minimum. Yeah. I need to think about this.
Mm-hmm. And I think that is the case. At least in this guy's call-out post, I'm pretty sure I saw pictures of text exchanges. Like text exchanges between them where she was, like, lamenting about their age gap, and so she seemed like she was ready to break it off or something like that, and then he, like, really wanted to stick around or something like that. That seemed to be the case, but I want to say he was her first, that kind of shit. But anyway, the Skye Cabot person, I don't think, man. So, like, I think of it this way. the ages aren't really super duper important when you're talking about like 16 to 22, because I can imagine a scenario where a 16-year-old might have the capacity to consent, to understand what they're doing and that kind of thing. And I know personally 26-year-olds that don't know what the fuck they're doing, and they should not be having sex.
Well, I mean, I think we all three know a 40-year-old who doesn't know what they're doing and shouldn't be having sex.
That is true. But yes, I know those types of people. So I would agree with you. I could definitely agree with you that she probably should have known what she was doing, and she should have tread lightly, which I believe it appears that, at least in my view, it appears that she did. She appeared to tread lightly. She didn't really do anything really wild. I don't see any like abusive type stuff, or like the employment of grooming or like manipulative tactics or anything like that. Like I said, it looks like a bog standard relationship between two young dipshits, and then they have a typical bad breakup that is now all over the internet. And that the only reason why she's being called a pedophile is because of the age gap, and not really anything else at all. And I think that the law is irrelevant as well, once again, typically because most people, I think the way that you do, in that most people would not have given a single shit about this whole story if this happened in Georgia, between Georgia and Oklahoma, instead of Florida and Arizona. If the age of consent or whatever, I think most people would just be like, wow, that sucks to be you, bro. I'm sorry that you got your heart broken. Better luck next time, and that kind of shit. That's what I believe. Or whatever.
Well, the way that I see things, I guess, is just that at the end of it, I think more information does need to come out. I don't care which side it's coming out from. We need more information to go off of to make an informed decision. Based off of what's been presented, I'm more inclined to believe the victim, if only because I can see at minimum the orbiting narrative like being the case. But that's not enough to prove anything damning, like in and of itself. It's a horrible thing to do. But I think we need more information, and there's a lot of things that have been claimed that we simply can't possibly know the truth to, because it relies on testimony from people who were physically there, and usually that's either them or the other person. So it's a very difficult situation.
A lot of people have also changed their usernames on Twitter, which makes it really difficult to dig into. I was doing that a little bit before Lio came in, but it was really tough shit, trying to dig up everybody and try to like find context to certain tweets and stuff like that. And so I also understand what you're saying. As far as I understand, what I saw, and I don't know if I sent it to you or not, but what I saw in Skye's Patreon Telegram is that apparently she's got COVID and plans on responding soon when she recovers from COVID. That's my understanding.
Yeah, if there's one thing that I've learned from situations like Slazo, ProJared, etc., it's that it is very important to wait for the other side to at least respond, even if that takes a while, because sometimes the story can be exactly the opposite of what we thought. And even if it seems clear cut, like very cut and dry, it is very important to wait for at least her to have her say in what's gone on.
Oh my God, like the Pokimane Fedmeister drama. That shit was crazy. Because the
I didn't see that one.
That's some Twitch streamer bullshit that nobody pays attention to, but I'm a terminally online fucking loser, so I watch that kind of shit. But like, so Fedmeister was a guy that was at least sexually interested or some shit like that in Pokimane or whoever it was, and they had some text exchanges, and one of them, I can't remember now, it's been so long, but one of them wrote a call-out post on the other one and made this other guy the other person seemed like a really fucking horrible person. And when you read through the doc, it was like plainly obvious, oh my God, this dude is a piece of shit, or girl, I can't remember which one it was that did it first. They're like, absolutely unbelievable piece of shit. And then the counter doc came out, And it was literally exactly polar opposite, where the person that did the original call out post cropped almost all of every single messages that was posted. They left out so much fucking context. It was an unbelievable manifesto that ended up destroying. And I want to say it was the Fedmeister person that did the counter manifesto. But I can't remember exactly. But the Pokimane Fedmeister stuff was a lot of fun to watch. Especially because everybody was on, I want to say it was everybody was on her side, and then it got flipped around, and then they were all on his side. It was fucking wild. But yeah. And then they had like a breakup on stream, I want to say, and she like went over to his house and like beat the fuck out of him, and then called the police, and he got arrested.
Holy shit!
Right. I'm actually gonna hop off because I gotta go to bed. I'll catch you guys later.
All right, bud. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm gonna get out of here in a minute too. I just wanted to sort of, like, my stance is that I do, from what I can tell, I'm cautiously in agreement with the victim, but I do understand that things may not be what they appear, and I am waiting to hear back from the other side of the story.
Yeah.
I think if it turns out what the victim is saying is true, that I think Skye is somebody that I would not be comfortable being, having a position of power around in a fandom that has so many children. And I get that there's no pathology. I'm not going to try to assert there is. I'm not saying she's a pedophile, but I am saying that it is incredibly alarming that she will look at what her desires are versus what is morally correct and throw the moral correct choice out the window for what she wants, regardless of who pays for it. I think that's a very alarming thing in that situation.
I think that's fair. I would definitely think that was fair. It's kind of like somebody that like looks at Lolly or some shit like that. I don't think that there's necessarily anything wrong with it. I don't really have a problem with that. Like you do whatever you want to do. What you think about while you're jacking off is literally the very last thing that I care about. But I'm definitely not asking you to fucking babysit my kid. That kind of shit. I don't want to be associated with it. You go have fun, but I'm not writing any call out posts on you about it or anything. But I'm also not super interested in associating with you, if that makes sense, I guess.
Yeah.
If you want this recording, though, I can give it to you.
Absolutely. I actually don't mind if you upload. I was actually hoping you were recording this because I think this is great content. I think you should upload this. Yeah, the most I would put this on was probably, if I did put it up, it would be on my second channel, because it would just give it like a place to archive this conversation, and that way if people were interested in what I thought, what Lio thought, what you thought, what have you, they would be able to get different perspectives, different takes, and actually be able to listen to like an actual non-hostile conversation, which is what you're not going to get on Twitter.
Right? Oh my god, people losing their fucking minds on Twitter. But anyway, yeah, actually, all right, I think I will. I think I might upload it, and people can come in and lose their goddamn minds anyway, probably, but I don't care. I like to fight.
Be sure to premiere it to get those super chats. That'll fucking tilt them.
That's a fucking great idea, actually. I have never done a premiere before, so this is like long-form content that I can, yeah. All right, well, yeah, that's a good idea. And do you want me to tag you on Twitter if I post it?
Hell yeah.
Okay, cool. That sounds like a fucking great plan. I'm excited now.
No worries, man. Anyway, I'll catch you later.
All right, rock on, dude.